Dear God, I know that I need to do this, and I just pray that you would help me put this video together, that the Holy Spirit would use me. I pray, dear God, that I can do it right first time, instead of countless hours of editing. And I pray, dear God, that I can make the truth clear. And I pray, dear God, that I can present it in a loving manner. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Good morning. It's the Sabbath today. Last week I got an email from a friend, a subscriber, and it says this: "Hi Robert, I came across this and I wanted to know your thoughts." And then there's a link to a YouTube video, and this video is 2 minutes and 18 seconds long, or 2 minutes and 28 seconds long, and the title of this video is "Are Seventh-day Adventists True Christians or Part of the Cults?" And the presenter of this video is John Ankerberg, and he brings a number of criticisms to the video. The main criticisms is on Ellen White and on the date 1844, to say essentially Ellen White is not a true prophet and the date 1844 can't be proven from the Bible alone. And these are two very large topics to deal with, so therefore I'm going to be making them in either 2 or 3 video parts, and this is the first part of those 2 or 3 video parts. I'm going to be playing his video in sections, and after each bit of it I'm going to give some comments on what has been said.
Ellen G. White was a Christian, but she got into the idea of being the voice of prophecy to her own denomination. And she claimed that God gave her revelations, which we now know God did not give her. She plagiarized them from other people, shamelessly, I might add. Okay,
so there are 2 things which are brought out in what he has just said. One of them is the nature of Ellen White's visions, and the second one is to do with plagiarism. I wanted to divide it so I could deal with them separately, but how he explained it, how he got his point across, merged the 2 together, so I couldn't really separate them. So, firstly, on the nature of her visions, the Bible says that true prophets do not breathe whilst they are in vision. And I have a text for this in Daniel chapter 10, verse 17. Here Daniel is in vision, and in Daniel 10:17, Daniel says, "For how can the servant of this my Lord talk with this my Lord? For as for me, straightway there remained no strength in me, neither is there breath left in me." When Daniel was in vision, he did not breathe, and amongst other keys, this is one of the keys of a true prophet. And whenever Ellen White went into vision, she also did not breathe. And I would like to read out a few eyewitness accounts of this, which were given at the time. The first one is from a man called John Loughborough. He was one of the Seventh-day Adventist pioneers, and before the church had even really started, before the church had even really formed, before Ellen White was ever really properly known, he has this to say about his own personal experiences whilst witnessing her in vision. "After I was introduced to the Whites, they invited me to go in with them for a season of prayer, while the rest of the company remained in silent prayer in the meeting room. We bowed by the bedside, and while prayer was being offered, Elder White anointed Brother Stowell in the name of the Lord, and he was instantly healed. When we arose from prayer, he was sitting up, striking his sides, which before had been so painful. I am fully healed, and shall be able to work tomorrow, he said. The same blessing that healed him fell in a still greater measure upon Sister White. As Elder White turned to look, he said, Ellen is in vision. She does not breathe while in this condition. If any of you desire to satisfy yourselves of this fact, you are at liberty to examine her. She was kneeling beside the bed, with her eyes open in a faraway look, as if gazing intently at some object, not in a vacant stare, but in a pleasant, intelligent expression. Her countenance appeared flesh and florid. Though she looked upward, her head would turn from side to side, as she seemed to be viewing different objects. It was evident from many tests applied that she was entirely oblivious to anything transpiring around her. Her hands would move gracefully from time to time. She remained in vision half an hour or more. While in that condition, she spoke words, and sometimes distinct sentences. Yet, by the closest scrutiny, no breath could be discerned in her body. When she came out of vision, her first 3 breaths were like that of a newborn child's first breath. That's from the book Miracles in My Life, pages 20 and 21, by John Loughborough. And a second testimony to confirm this, because the Bible says by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses is a thing established. This second testimony is by Dr. Merritt G. Kellogg. He says this: Sister White was in vision about 20 minutes or half an hour. As she went into vision, everyone present seemed to feel the power and presence of God. And some of us did indeed feel the Spirit of God resting upon us mightily. We were engaged in prayer and social meeting Sabbath morning at about 9 o'clock. Brother White, my father, and Sister White had prayed, and I was praying at the time. There had been no excitement, no demonstrations. We did plead earnestly with God, however, that he would bless the meeting with his presence, and that he would bless the work in Michigan. As Sister White gave the triumphant shout of "Glory! Glory! Glory!" which you have heard her give so often as she goes into vision, Brother White arose and informed the audience that his wife was in vision. After stating the manner of the visions, and that she did not breathe whilst in vision, he invited anyone who wished to do so to come forward and examine her. Dr. Drummond, a physician, who was also a first-day Adventist preacher, who, before he saw her in vision, had declared her visions to be of mesmeric origin, and that he could give her a vision, stepped forward, and after thorough examination turned very pale and remarked, "She doesn't breathe." I am quite certain that she did not breathe at that time while in vision, nor in any of several others which she has had when I was present. The coming out of the vision was as marked as her going into it. The first indication we had that the vision was ended was in her again beginning to breathe. She drew her first breath deep, long, and full, in a manner showing that her lungs had been entirely empty of air. After drawing the first breath, several minutes passed before she drew the second, which filled the lungs precisely as did the first. Then a pause of 2 minutes, and a third inhalation, after which the breathing became natural. Signed, M. G. Kellogg, M.D., Battle Creek, Michigan, December 28, 1890. And a second account of this second event is from F. C. Castle. By the way, there are a lot of testimonies. I'm only sharing 3. We gave the following statement from an individual who witnessed a medical examination of Mrs. White whilst in vision at Stowe, Vermont in the summer of 1853. He says, "A physician was present and made such examination of her as his wisdom and learning dictated, to find the cause of the manifestation. A lighted candle was held close to her eyes, which were wide open. Not a muscle of the eye moved. He then examined her in regard to her pulse, and also in regard to her breathing, and there was no respiration. The result was that he was satisfied that it could not be accounted for on natural or scientific principles. Signed, F. C. Castle." And there are actually a lot of testimonies of people witnessing Ellen White firsthand and how they witnessed the fact that she did not breathe. And this is one of the keys of a true prophet, as Daniel 10:17 says, "How can the servant of this my Lord talk with this my Lord? For there is no breath that remains in me. How is it I can speak to you and at the same time not breathe?" It's truly a miracle that only God can perform with his true prophets. And Ellen White was a true prophet. And this is one of the evidences, it's actually the strongest evidence for her being a true prophet, the physical manifestations. There are a lot of other keys as to why she really is a true prophet. This is only one of them. And other of these keys will probably be covered in future videos, but this video is targeted at addressing the issues that John Ankerberg addressed. And the first bit was that the nature of her visions was not of a divine origin. And here we have evidence that the nature of her visions was indeed of a divine origin. And not only that, but according to parts of the testimonies, we also know that whilst Ellen White was in vision, she was lost to earthly experiences. She had no sense of being here on this earth. As far as she was concerned, where she was in heaven. Now, by the way, this is not the same as astral projection or any part of spiritualism, but it was a genuine vision that God was showing her regarding heavenly things. And there is a lot more evidence to say that that her visions were of a divine origin. But to move on, to not make this video so long, the next part of John Ankerberg's argument is plagiarism.